You are listening to the Green Living Chat podcast, brought to you by EcoAmet Solutions in Ghana. I'm your host, David. Here, we discuss emerging environmental issues in and around the world. We use this platform to promote environmental-related projects. So stick around with us. Here we go. Did you know that several scientific research papers as well as reports from reputable international organizations have confirmed that about 2.7 billion people, that's about 40% of the world's population, still rely on burning biomass as their primary cooking fuel? Think about this for a second, the health and environmental challenges and issues associated with this. Research has also linked over 390,000 premature deaths in the sub-Saharan African region in the year 2017 to household air pollution from cooking with solid fuels. This is a challenge in developing economies, and access to clean cooking fuel is critical for human health, and this is prominently highlighted in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today, the CEO of B Energy joins me on the Green Living Chat podcast to talk about the magic of biogas as a sustainable alternative to traditional options. Katrin Pütz's passion for developing these systems in low economic nations is really contagious. She started this amazing company in 2014 in Germany and has been working hand in hand with a lot of countries improving the livelihoods of people. And guess what? She does this amazingly, avoiding any form of aid, generating all income within and among the local people, for the local people, and with the local people. We talked about all you have to know about partnership with your company and how you can get access to their technology through their well-structured training program and everything that you need to know. I can't wait for you to hear details of this conversation. So grab a coffee and let's get into this episode. Hi, Katrin. Thank you so much for joining me on the Green Living Chat podcast. I'm really glad to have you here because I have seen some of the things you're doing and it's very encouraging, and it's really great to have you on the podcast today in spite of your busy schedule. So welcome.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your interest in our topic of biogas.
Yes, it should, because you make people actually be interested in this. I watched one of your interviews and you were like, hey people, I know that we are in the Corona season, but I am here to make you interested in biogas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. So I really love the work you guys are doing. It's exceptional. It's different from what everyone is doing. And I wonder where this idea came from, where the enthusiasm came from. But I just want us to start a little bit from your childhood and the experience that you had throughout. Why did you end up in here? What did sustainability mean to you growing up? I mean, who caught your attention? Who got you into this? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Germany in a family with two sisters. My parents coming from the really rural countryside, and my mother grew up on a farm, and I spent most of my childhood until 14 every weekend at my grandmother's farm, as much time as I could. I just loved the nature, the connection to the animals, the practical work. This was my world, and I guess that's where I connected to the environment deeply. And I think, although my parents didn't teach me this, I was the one in the family who always annoyed people to not use the car for short distances, go on bike, don't emit so much carbon, don't waste water, all this kind of thing. I was always annoying them. I always, from an early age on, I saw that something was going on with our environment. Don't ask me why. I had this feeling. And then I ended up first doing an apprenticeship as a cabinet maker. Yeah, this practical work that I always really loved doing. Then I lived in Australia for 2 years, and one and a half
Oh,
of these years, I was actually working as a bull catcher, living in the Australian outback, catching wild bulls, and really learned a lot of skills that you need to survive in nature, to really survive outback. Extremely interesting. I really loved that time. And when I came back, that's when I started studying. I went to university and studied environmental impact assessment.
beautiful.
And that's where I really followed my passion for, yeah, for environment, for sustainability. But then, and although I had traveled a lot during all these years, I had been to all the continents, but not to Africa. And during this bachelor course, I went to Africa for my bachelor thesis. I went to Rwanda. It
Oh,
was my first encounter with Africa, and I mean, really, after working with so many different nations, different mentalities and backgrounds and religions and whatever, very different people coming to Africa, what really struck me was that local people were treated in a way by foreigners that I couldn't believe.
yeah.
It really shocked me. It shocked me to see, in this case, Germans, yeah, setting the standards or setting the rules for local farmers to follow. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I quit my job, or I finished my master thesis, quit the job that I had there for the university project, and I went back to university actually to do agricultural engineering, because I
Wow.
thought I think technology might help. Not help is the wrong word, but might be needed, and to change something in the agricultural sector in countries that are not, in a way, not industrialized, but come to a point where they can really efficiently farm. And I thought it's probably wrong to just transfer our old technology that we've been using here to these countries, but we probably need a totally new approach. That made me go back to university, study agriculture engineering, and it turned out totally different than I obviously thought.
Yes.
What really got me was the biogas. Yeah,
Wow.
when I learned about biogas and biogas, how it is being used in Germany, I thought, okay, this is the principle of biogas is really simple, and I can imagine that this would work in countries that are naturally warm
Yeah,
and have a lot of organic waste. It would be
exactly.
so easy to produce biogas. That's how all this started.
Wow. I ask people this question a lot, and you hear a lot of people talking about, how they came by what they do now. And it comes with different things. Sometimes some exposure, sometimes, something they learned at school, or sometimes someone got into a very serious tragedy and they started getting into this. But I feel more of passion driven in what you're saying. Now in the environment that we live in, until you're exposed to something, nothing triggers you to sort of make a change. And I really love the story you just told us, this thing pushing you to go further, to do a course in it and see how can you help. Because even at a young age, you started thinking about these things. So my question now is that there are so many things happening in the environment right now, and there are so many divisions. I watched one of your interviews and you were talking about the issue of dark and light. And that scenario you gave was very significant for me, because you removed the dark and now we cannot see some part of the world anymore. Looking at it from a different point of view, what made you think this way? What made you, start thinking about these things? Because I know it's what you do, but why did you come up with this concept? Because it's so significant.
Yeah. It took me more than 10 years. This was now 13, 14 years ago that I collected some experience in Rwanda. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really made me really sad to see how people were treated. I couldn't accept it. And when I then got into biogas and researched about how biogas was already implemented in Rwanda, in this case, was one of the first countries in Africa, it shocked me again. I couldn't believe what they were doing because it was just external funding coming in to build biogas systems that were so expensive nobody would ever be able to afford this by themselves. And the worst part about it was there was no business model involved. there was nothing involved that would ever make this whole intervention independent of foreign aid. And that was then the top of the top of the iceberg, where I thought, okay, the way of thinking is wrong. How do people set up such programs that would never work in our world, to be honest? Like, it would never work here. Why do the same people set this up somewhere else where nobody stops them from doing this? And yeah, to answer your question, it's a lot of anger involved, I have to say. It's a lot of understanding the unfairness that puts people into a position where nothing changes towards the better. And I just can't accept this. And I believe we can do something about it.
Exactly.
I don't think it's hopeless. I think the time is just right now to raise some voices and begin. And I want to encourage people to think about what's happening and to join the kind of movement, but we'll talk about this, and see what the real problems are, because I think we're just treating symptoms.
Yeah.
The problem is not that people don't have access to biogas. The problem is a totally different one. But we can talk about this.
The energy sector has a lot of loopholes, because even when we look at where most of our sources of energy worldwide, there are issues that are coming up from greenhouse gas emissions. And when you come to, the developing countries, we also have the sort of, systems that we are using, and it also has an impact on the environment. So I'm sure that aside this passion that drove you into this system, there should be something that you saw in the environment, in the industry, that was lagging behind. What exactly did you see as a loophole in the industry that brought you into trying to do something about the energy industry?
First of all, about the energy industry, and I have to say, I am mostly focusing on the cooking energy industry, yeah, or industry is already a little bit exaggerated, but the cooking energy sector, yeah. So what we normally look at is that we have, in Africa, we have 830 million people who are cooking on firewood and charcoal, yeah. The consequence of this is that it's too many people for too little forest. So decreasing forests leads to increasing prices for this source of energy, but the number of alternatives is not increasing. And that means people don't really have an alternative to increasing prices of firewood. The problem is that we are addressing this problem at a very high level. That means we're addressing the symptoms of this, not the problem. So we're running a kind of band-aid strategy that is really short-sighted, where especially the international community thinks to take responsibility for example, providing improved cook stoves that are financed through aid projects, or even worse, through carbon offset projects.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss this idea, and the other big part that they do is planting trees on land that doesn't belong to anybody, to people who will not feel responsible for these trees. Yeah, another symptoms treatment. And the third one, which affects me or the biogas sector, is national biogas programs that are run by governments together with external funders or donors, that usually one system that doesn't allow the private sector to develop. Yeah, it results in market distortion. There are a couple of examples where we can clearly see this. The Ethiopian National Biogas Program, I would say, is a great example, because after more than 10 years of this national biogas program, there's not a single biogas company in the country. And that is, I would say, a big problem to making biogas actually work. But if you can't compete with the program, why would you start a biogas company there? Yeah. So what is being totally overlooked in the cooking energy sector is the effects international organizations have on market development, specifically on market distortion. It is never discussed. Yeah, they don't see that they're pushing out local entrepreneurs out of the business by their random financing of projects and programs and initiatives. It's not coordinated in most cases, and it's short term. It's totally random. And it makes it really difficult. I mean, speaking from experience with so many partners who are trying to set up biogas companies, it makes it so difficult to even find people who want to invest we know from people who say, hey, I'm not getting involved with biogas for households because there is this biogas program and they have already distorted the market. Why would I invest? I would have the money to run it, but it's too risky for me. Yeah. So, I mean, this is, I think, alarming when you want to really see change and development happening. If market distortion is allowed at that scale.
I really can't wait for us to talk about your business model, because looking at all these loopholes, I'm wondering what you came up with. I really just can't wait. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we have already identified the problem. We know where your passion came from. We know what the loopholes are in the cooking energy industry. How then did you transcend from studying a master in this, moving to Africa for the first time, getting to know all this experience? How did you transcend from this into a company? And what did you make the company do?
It's quite a lucky story, I can say. I mean, I just came up with a crazy idea, which was the biogas backpack, right? When I looked at these national biogas programs financed, in this case by GIZ in Rwanda, I thought, oh man, how do they imagine this will continue? If you cannot even produce as much biogas from all the cow manure that you have in your household, yeah, to produce that much gas as you could possibly do, and then give the excess gas to your neighbors, for example, sell it to your neighbors, sell it to somebody, and make a little bit of a return on your investment. This was not included. So I thought, okay, if it was possible to transport biogas, then you could sell it, and then you can make a biogas system financially viable and interesting for somebody who is probably in the long term just looking at making some income and earning money, right? This is the best way to get out of poverty, with money. Developing the biogas backpack was just the idea to make biogas transportable on the lowest technical way. Yeah.
And that's the best part of it.
I was laughed at by my colleagues at the university, all of them German engineers, who said, are you crazy? Gas in a plastic bag. Yeah, who is going to use this? What could that be good for? And I said, yeah, let's see. And I also said, I will not continue working on this. I'm not pushing that to anybody, towards anybody, or I'm not forcing anyone to use it if there's no interest from the countries where I thought it could be useful in. And it happened that the Ethiopian University of Addis Abeba, the director of Horn of Africa Regional Environment Network, contacted me and said, you know what, we like your development. Could you come here and we work together and see how we can implement this in Ethiopia? We think we need this. It was very clear that they had a strong interest, and over 3 years we worked together and further developed the whole system, like the biogas digester, the stove, the mutad for baking injera and all this. And it was clear that they had a strong interest. And I have to say, no money was raised here to do this activity in Africa, or in Ethiopia in this case. It came from them. They paid me to come, which is, I mean, it shows that, or it showed me that it was something that could be useful. Yeah? And we proved this in a number of pilot projects together. And then after 1 year working for the university full time, I said, okay, the demand is there, the technology works. Now let's bring it to the market. No need to further implement projects or work for the university. Let's just open a company. And that's what I did. Founded B Energy in 2014 out of Ethiopia. I mean, I was still there. I founded the company. I would have founded B Energy as an Ethiopian company, but the rules and regulations for an investment are so demanding.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, you could say. That I mean, sad for, I would say, for Ethiopia in this case, because wouldn't it have been great to have B Energy, an Ethiopian company operating on the continent and serving customers on the whole continent, instead of coming back to Germany doing all this from here. I am still sad about this, but that's how it is.
But it's still good.
Well, I mean, we're going back to the countries.
Yeah.
But it's a big detour. So yeah, this is how it came to the company. And it's been quite a long way from there, because I stayed 3 more years in Ethiopia to really test the case of working with a local partner to set up the business. Yeah. in his or her responsibility or name. And then I went back to Germany and started to spread this into other countries with local partners from different countries.
I know that along the way, there are so many challenges that you faced before, setting up all these things. What do you guys do mainly? And how do you get to come up with such an amazing business plan? And tell us more about what this business plan is and how it works within the continent, especially.
So the energy is a social business, I have to say, because our aim is not to increase or maximize profit, but to maximize impact by providing biogas technology or making it accessible in as many countries as possible. So the approach that we're following is here at Energy in Germany, we have a set of technologies that work in a system for the production of biogas from organic waste on household level. We provide a service infrastructure that includes nearly everything you need to set up a business, because it's kind of always the same when you set up a business. There's there are certain documents you need. We have an app, for example, we have online training. So we provide everything to our partners that they need to quickly start a biogas business in their country. And we offer to participate in our network. That means be connected to others, very like-minded people on the continent, but also beyond, to support each other and to share experience, to further develop, also to help each other in times of frustration, and to improve the overall offer that we have, and to really grow this as a completely locally owned and locally driven sector by individuals who have the passion. And we really here as Be Energy Germany become quite small in this. We're just the connection.
Yeah.
And we deliver, of course, we provide the technology and we provide the infrastructure. We work with importers or distributors, people in different countries who start to import our systems, but only the very basic components, excluding everything that you can find locally, like pipes and fittings and all this kind of stuff. These people then work together, or we connect them with local installers who are technically good and integrated in the communities. They are spread all over the country, and promote the technology. They install systems, they service the systems, and they stay in contact with the actual end user who buys the biogas system. This is the service network that makes it really important, which is very important in the biogas sector, because biogas is like a cow. A biogas system is like a cow. You have to take care of it. To make it work, you have to educate people well, and you have to show them how things work, and you have to be ready to come and fix it if there's a little problem. And the third part of the business model is the end user. That means the biogas producer who buys this biogas system, then produces gas for his or her own household to cook with this gas and replace firewood, charcoal, APG, whatever, and to produce excess gas that can then be sold to neighbors or to other people who would like to cook on this clean and renewable source of energy, but do not have the capacity to run their own system. And that doesn't have to be financial capacity. That can simply be somebody who's not a farmer and doesn't have cow manure, which is the best substrate for a biogas system, or no organic waste whatsoever.
Looking at this business model, I know that you guys have a lot of, training programs and things that you guys do to, help people to understand the process that goes in. But can you briefly tell us what are the, initial ingredients? What do you need to create the biogas? Can you simply let us know what exactly goes into it?
Yeah. So the end customer is the one we have the least connection to.
Okay.
but of course, who is a typical biogas producer? It's somebody who has organic waste. So what happens with this organic waste is it goes into or is fed to the biogas system, the biogas digester, which is a gas-tight container, in our case, on top of the ground, just a plastic bag, really a strong one. Inside this digester, you have anaerobic bacteria that decompose the organic matter and transform it into biogas. That means into a mixture of carbon dioxide and methane, and into a very valuable organic fertilizer. So you have two products from a biogas system. You put in organic waste, you get biogas for cooking, or other purposes possible, and organic fertilizer that you can directly use to replace mineral fertilizer and add to the field or your garden. So it's simple. Biogas really is magic, because all you have to do is have a gas-tight container, have some organic waste, have a certain temperature of about 20 degrees. That's what the bacteria need to be active, but they don't die if it's colder. They just get really lazy. And that's it. Yeah, it's a natural process. You don't have to do much. Just feed the system and take out the gas and the slurry, the bioslurry, the fertilizer.
Hi there, just a quick one. A bonus episode of this conversation where Katrin Pütz tells us a little bit about how her company drives without accepting any form of aid, but manages to generate all income within and among the local people. This episode is readily available on all podcast platforms. I recommend you check this episode out after listening to this episode. Now let's continue this conversation. I really love the action that anaerobic bacteria can do in a system, because I'm working on a reactor that I'm using anaerobic reaction to produce electricity. And it's really so amazing how just microbes can work on this. Anyway, so where has this technology been applied successfully? Because I know you have a lot of success stories, right? From Ethiopia coming back to Germany to start this thing off with this nice model. Where has this been applied successfully?
It's a very difficult question to answer.
I know.
Because there's so many countries that have,
wow.
where I have people who have started, or where I have people who are preparing to start the business. 5 years is no time. It's nothing. It can easily take 5 or 6 years before somebody who has taken the training starts the business. It is just not so easy. For example, in Ethiopia, it took us 2 years to even license or register the company, a biogas company. It was new to the country. So these are the little obstacles that are. Back to your question, where are we operational? That's probably more the question. I have to say that we have changed the approach a little bit. Corona was kind of the starting point where we said, okay, now we transition to a new approach. Before, it was kind of a franchise approach where the importer had the whole responsibility for everything. Now we have developed this mobile application, which allows us to distinguish between the importer or the distributor of the technology and the installer, because the installer uses this mobile app for Android phones to install systems and to monitor the functioning of the system, and also the installation quality, the service quality. So it allows us to give the full responsibility to the installer, but providing support through the distributor and through us to the installer. We're connected to the people on the ground in the villages, And with this new approach, we're actually starting over since the start of Corona. Now, Corona has, of course, totally put everything on hold, But in the last couple of months, we have started in Rwanda. Funny enough, again, Rwanda. So the first systems have arrived. People are setting up the business, being in contact with the government, being in contact with digester owners whose systems have failed because they were installed by or within projects not working. So we're looking at repairing all these systems first, improving the reputation of biogas, which is unfortunately not always good due to the lot of failures that's annoying in the sector. So it is not easy to set up a functioning biogas business, because it requires that you are aware of the importance of training your installers perfectly and training the user perfectly, and then having a service infrastructure in place, a customer service that works. And funny enough, is something new to the sector, I have the feeling, because you still find biogas projects. Where on earth could you implement biogas in form of a project that lasts 3 or 5 years? It's impossible. Yeah, it should not be allowed, if you ask me. We are fighting with this bad reputation of biogas, with all these failed systems that are out there. So Rwanda is starting at that point. Yeah, our partner there is starting at that point. What's also in progress is Sudan, in collaboration with many government institutions, setting up directly on a larger scale. Yeah. Benin, we've been working with a partner for a couple of years now. They have a waste management site, and they're simply selling biogas in backpacks from their bigger digester that they had already in place. And they're just using backpacks to sell the gas to the households in the area. People bring their organic waste and they trade this waste for biogas.
Okay, yeah. It's a smart move.
Very interesting, and it's especially interesting for markets. That's what our partner in Cameroon is setting up. He's focusing a lot on markets, where he says, let's work with the communities to convince them that this really annoying waste that piles up every day more and more from the leftovers from markets, let's use this, transform it to gas. Then people right there, they can also buy their bag of gas, take it home with them, or even cook on spot. All our partners have their own little strategy. The new approach now allows us to really work with people who shape their own way. Yeah? Also in Ethiopia, we're starting again in Ethiopia too. Syria, there are so many people involved, and it can start in a blink. I'm hoping actually that after Corona, once things calm down a little bit, we get to go push.
Mm-hmm. You actually went ahead of me. I was going to ask you about some of the challenges that you're facing. Are there any more that you can think of, like, when it comes to challenges that in these kind of corporations and starting this in the continent?
Yeah, I would say from a business perspective, I have to say it's very, very difficult to deal with or to trade with African businesses or business people. Yeah. Because they always face the problems of transferring money. It starts with something as simple as this. Yeah, how does somebody who has Ethiopian birr or Nigerian naira, how does he transfer euros to Germany to pay for the systems? I mean, we're stuck with something so simple as that. And here we have a multi-billion-dollar aid sector doing projects, but I can't even sell something to somebody who has the money because he's stuck with a currency that our government doesn't want or the West doesn't want. That's one of the really big challenges. Yeah, you cannot imagine. And then also freight is a problem in some areas, and that's why we can't even generalize the cost of a biogas system, because if I send something to Ghana or Nigeria, it's 10 times cheaper than to Somalia. Imagine this. Yeah, customs is often unpredictable. Yeah?
Oh boy.
It would be great to have to have the assurance at least. Yeah, and it's not difficult for me. That's then difficult for our local partner. And this is again putting people into a difficult situation and at high risk. Yeah, we had it in several countries where people imported the stuff and it ended up being so expensive that they can't sell it anymore. It makes no sense to sell it. Nobody will buy it. It would be horrible to sell a biogas system for like 1,200 euros, whereas it costs a couple hundred euros from here, buying it from here directly, right?
Don't they have means of producing these, equipment locally?
Yes, this is the thing. And this is what we also support our partners to do in the long run. But nobody starts with local manufacturing, right? It's always a process. When you start up a new business, especially something like this biogas business, I always advise people to import a number of systems, start with this and check the market for it. And then the next order will try to manufacture locally and set up manufacturing. I set up a manufacturing site in Ethiopia during my time there, and we manufactured everything locally. So there it's particularly difficult to get foreign exchange. So importing is really not an option. Yeah, and also it's a landlocked country. That means freight is always expensive too. So, but for me, it makes no sense to ship plastic all over the world. It's really, I mean, it's designed to be easy to produce. Yeah, and this is of course the aim, that we manufacture all this locally in each and every country, ideally, or at least in the region, and then have the trade between countries. And I guess this will become more easy now with the African Trade Union. Yeah.
So, getting this out of the way, if someone hears about this, wants to work with you, someone thinks this is a very interesting thing and wants to bring it on board, where do we start from?
Mhm.
Do we just call you and you tell us everything, or what do we do? Tell us about the programs you have ahead and the training that you take people through, and where do we start from?
I'm available for people who are interested. So you can call me, you can write me WhatsApp message, you can send me an email. I prefer email, to be honest, because we have prepared the answer. It's there. I sent you the documents, and if you read through this, you will, within a blink, understand how this works. You see what we offer. Yeah. For example, for the distributors, we have a distributor service pack. It's a document, and all the documents that you need to set up a business, already prepared contracts, user manuals, the app and the dashboard access. All these things are linked to this one document. And if you have this one document after signing a contract with us, you're ready to go. So what do you do to get started? Contact me, I'll send you the information. And this is perfect timing now. We are offering a training now in a bit more than a coming weekend, end of April. And this is the start for new distributors. It's a 2.5-day webinar where we teach about, or we talk about theory of biogas production. Yeah, we talk about installation, and not only talk, but we actually physically go through it. I send people with some special tools. We really make it practical. We learn how the app works. We follow the installation steps. So after this, everybody knows how to install a biogas system of the energy. It's not rocket science. Yeah. And we talk about maintenance issues, about customer service, about training the customers. So all the technical stuff. And then on the last day, we talk in detail about the business model, the digital service infrastructure, the promotion, and so on. Everything that really involves, or that's involved in setting up the business. Yeah, so this is the training we offer. It's 2.5 days, starts Friday afternoon until Sunday afternoon, and it costs 450 euros and is, I think, a great package for somebody to start a business from scratch, even if you have no experience with biogas. Yeah, and this is especially for distributors, for people who only have the responsibility to make this technology available in their country. They don't have to travel and promote it. They don't have to install it. You just have to store it, make it available for the installers. Yeah, then do their job.
So then again, it's on Friday, 30th of April, and you can just send, I'm going to put all the details and the links in the show notes. So anyone who is interested, just shoot her an email and she's going to give you the details to register and also be part of this webinar and training, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Most of the places where you're working, how has the feedback been in their communities? How are people responding? What are the feedback the distributors and other people are bringing?
The last distributor training was in January, and the greatest feedback I would say we have gotten was from our partner in Rwanda. She said, this has been an unusual expression of dedication to a product that she has never seen before. I was a little bit proud of this because it's true. Yes, we dedicate a lot to making this work for our partners, and it's nice when people realize this, right? And honor this. So, and that's the feedback of our other distributors and installers, installers too, is that we're there, right? We're there. Whenever there's a problem, it's an infrastructure that they can always fall back at. Yeah, we're in the background, and we're there. Whenever there is a need for it, we solve the problems, or we help to solve the problems. Now, the user feedback, yeah, I mean, I think it's the typical user feedback of people who switch from firewood to charcoal, right? I mean, cooking becomes so easy. Yeah, it's quick. You just light the fire, you know it from a normal gas flame. You don't have to sit there for a while getting the charcoal hot and burn, or light the fire and have the smoke. So the comfort of biogas users is, or they highly value the comfort. And it was one of the very first surprises for me, still back in Ethiopia, where women actually who just switched to biogas from backpacks, who bought the biogas from one of our central biogas stations, and they had never experienced biogas before, and they said, I can't believe how easy it is, how quick it is. I can sleep longer, much longer in the morning before I have to make the breakfast for my family. And they said, I don't care if it's more expensive than charcoal, I will always buy biogas because it's so much easier. And it was a great learning for me, because I always thought that biogas has to, under all circumstances, be cheaper than the alternatives. But no, people were very willing to pay for this comfortable way of cooking. Yeah, and this has been the experience. Of course, if firewood is for free, this is one thing. Then of course, the business model doesn't work, right? Yeah. Because then you will have problems to sell your biogas. At least at the start, this is the thing. How do you get people interested in biogas if it's more expensive than firewood and charcoal to experience this comfort? Yeah. Once they've experienced it, they might switch to it, even though other sources of energy are cheaper, or I doubt for free that we can compete. So, however, in the app, just to mention it, to really be able to advise your customers well, we have a calculator where you calculate for your customer before he or she installs a biogas system how much biogas they can produce and what the biogas would be worth. Based on the cost that they're currently having for charcoal and firewood, we calculate the potential price of biogas. And then before you ever install a biogas system, you can see how the return on investment is and how much you can actually earn after you have paid out the system. Yeah. The feedback, yeah, it's good in terms of user feedback, but I have to say the feedback for the profitability depends on the price of other sources of fuel. And then one thing I'm always neglecting, which is a big mistake, I have to admit, I never really talk about the value of the fertilizer. But because we have the backpack and we're
exactly
kind of basing our business model on the sale of biogas, but the value of fertilizer is really high, and people, once they have experienced the benefits from it, highly value it as well. This is part of the feedback for biogas systems, is this big advantage for farming, for gardening, for growing crops. Yeah.
Thank you, Katrin, for being on this podcast and for joining me, making time today for this podcast. There is this question that I normally ask people before they leave, is looking at our impact on the environment. If you have one chance to change what human activities are and the impact they have on the earth, what would that thing be?
That's a very interesting question. I guess I'm doing it with Be Energy, but it's a little bit hidden. I am trying to show that we probably have to start running our economies in a little bit of a different way. You know, capitalism, at least the Western capitalism that we're trying to push towards Africa, especially with development aid, is not the way to go, because we have the consequences we're feeling very, very clearly, which is climate change. Yeah, it's one consequence of capitalism, and the great divide between the global north and the global south is always also a consequence of capitalism. So if there's one thing I would like to do, it would be to get away from this profit-oriented capitalism towards something that is based on the common good, the benefit for the common good. And that's what we're trying to do with Be Energy. This is not a business for money. This is a business for dignity, better livelihood, and a shared responsibility to achieve this. And nobody gets rich with this. It is not the aim, but we do stay independent of aid. That's why we have to make it as a business. So there's still money involved, but not the capitalist thinking behind it.
I agree with you 100% on this. And thank you so much for coming. And I don't know if you have any last words or something that I missed.
I just have maybe a little bit of an appeal to people who listen to this, because I really want to encourage people in Africa to think about aid and to encourage them to speak up and to question what's happening, and to be brave and bold enough to say, you know what, we don't want this anymore. because it's not helping us. It hasn't helped us in 60 years, and it will never help us because it's part of this capitalist system that I'm criticizing or that I've just explained. It's based on it and it's part of it, and it's not going to change. It's not going to help either. The only way it can change is when the people who receive it reject it. Rather than me trying here to stop it, I think this is more difficult and might take longer. But if you, as the recipient of a present, don't accept the present anymore, you stop it immediately. There is no way. So that's my message. I'm happy to connect with anybody who has a stake in this, who has something to say. Besides biogas, this is my second passion, to create a network of people who want to do something about the system, to change it. Yeah. And I'm not talking about revolution, I'm talking about a transition. I think there's a peaceful way, but we have to start because I can't see it getting better.
Yeah. You just said it so right. Thank you so much, Katrin, for coming on today's podcast and for making time for this. So I hope to engage with you soon. Hopefully we can do something together.
It would be a great honor and my big pleasure. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Green Living Chat. Our goal here is to discuss emerging environmental issues and challenges and find possible solutions to educate the public. So why don't you get in touch with us on all our social media platforms at EcoAmet Solutions, or visit our website www.ecoametsolutions.com, and we'll be excited to hear from you and engage with you. Consider giving us a star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. See you on the next episode. Until then, live green.